Hello and welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered Copenhagen. As always, I'm Ford, and with me is the lovely Rodolfo.
Hi, Ford.
How you
How are you
doing?
doing today?
I'm all right. I'm feeling a little under the weather this week, but I'm
Yeah,
feeling a
you
little
were
better
sick.
today. Yeah. So
Was
was my girlfriend had it way worse.
was that the reason why we missed podcast last week?
No, the reason we missed the podcast last week, as far as I remember, is because you were kind of hungover. Well,
Holy
or
shit! That
tired.
I I think it's a bit more than that. But I we had a Christmas party.
You mean a summer
No,
party?
sorry, a summer party, not a Christmas party. It's pretty much the same, just a different time of the year.
Yeah.
But there's not really much difference between Christmas party and the summer party. We had a summer party at work, and I was coming home at 5. I got home around 6, and then I realized I forgot my keys, and then I had to walk all the way back to the office and come back. So I was in bed by 7:30 or something like that, And I'm not much of a drinker myself.
But you had a little bit to drink that night.
Yeah, at some point somebody we were upstairs and somebody threw a cigarette butt in my glass of water. So of course I could have gone down to get more water, but there was a lot of gin and tonic much closer to us, so I guess that became my water after a while.
Yeah, it's
And
quite convenient when it's just right there.
and it didn't really work out as I would have hoped.
You know, the night started off with good intentions. There was 5 to 6 like ashtrays, like that were specifically ashtrays placed all over for people to use. And at some point in every party, smokers get to the point where they're too lazy to even put a thing in an ashtray, so they just find any available can or cup and just start ashing into it, and then put the cigarette butt in there as well.
Yeah, I
It's
I
kind of
mean I
nasty.
guess people get drunk as well, and then they stop giving a shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's water there, like it was already at the point where people were throwing cigarette butts in bottles and stuff, like empty bottles.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a glass there. It doesn't have much water, and the water will make sure that this whole thing doesn't burn down to pieces.
I guess it's
So
better that they put it in a liquid like that and make sure it goes out. Because you know what I really despise the most is, first off, when somebody lights a cigarette, and this happened actually at the party, and they're sitting next to you, and they're not actually actively smoking the cigarette. They're just holding it in their hand next to your face and just wafting that smoke right in your face. And like, it's been 5 minutes, they haven't taken a hit of the cigarette, and I'm just like, hey, are you gonna smoke that? Because if not, you could just put it out, and it's like, oh yeah, they take 2 more puffs, then put it out and light another one and do the same thing. Holy shit, man. I can't
yeah,
believe I used to smoke for so long. It's so disgusting.
how long did you smoke for?
Like 13 years back a day.
Mm. Yeah, that's not good for you. For it.
No, I don't think it was good for me. But
Did you actually did you try to quit, or it's only
yeah,
when?
I quit smoking actually successfully at one point. Like, yeah, without too many problems. And then, like, I stayed quit for about a year. And then at one point I had, yeah, I don't know if I drank or what, but basically I had another cigarette, and it was like right back to normal. It was just right back to the old routine. So quitting, I think, is a little hard, but once you've quit, the hardest part is just staying.
Yeah,
Actually quit.
especially when you keep drinking.
If you drink, yeah, that's the hardest part. And then I quit again successfully when I started vaping, doing the electronic cigarette thing way back, like it's like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, back when the vaping scene was basically like nobody vaped unless they were like an enthusiast or a hobby. Like, you didn't have all this shops and popularity. Like, it was all in online forums and people building their own stuff, and yeah, experimenting with different atomizers and stuff like that. And now the industry is really good. You can just buy like a badass mod for $50. But
Yeah, I still think it's the best way for someone who wants to stop smoking
yeah, I think so
to do
too.
it
I mean,
successfully.
because even at first, if you don't completely quit, you will smoke less cigarettes, because just the convenience of the vapes means that, like, you'll be inside or something and it's like shitty outside. You don't want to go out there to smoke. You can vape inside as long as, it's at your own place or whatever.
But even if you switch from one to the other, I mean, with the current evidence, it's a relatively recent product, so there's not many studies, but it seems that it's way better, even if you just replace cigarettes completely with vaping.
Yeah, yeah. I think the National Health Service in the UK did a study, and they said it's 95% safer.
Yeah.
Like, it's not without some potential harm, and I think the biggest thing that people notice is that you still have some limited breathing capacity, not nearly as much as when you smoke cigarettes, but
Hmm.
you feel like your breaths are slightly more shallow maybe sometimes, or you're not getting like the fullest deep breath that you could maybe, or sometimes you'll get a little bit of a like phlegm or something. And
Yeah.
then the other thing is that you need to drink more water because it seems to dehydrate me a lot
Yeah,
because it's hygroscopic.
but at least, I mean, you're still putting shit in your lungs, but at least you're putting like 4 or 5 different chemicals that you actually know what they are, as
Hmm.
opposed to, I don't know,
Seven,
hundreds or
yeah,
thousands or whatever
thousands,
it is,
and then
where we
it's
know that a lot of them are actually carcinogens.
yeah, like 700 or something plus in cigarettes are known carcinogens or like yeah, really bad toxins. And yeah, with electronic cigarettes, I mean, we make our own juice, so we know exactly what goes in there. The only one that's kind of a little bit of a question mark, although you can look up all the stuff, but like the flavoring is probably the one that has the most, I don't know,
Yeah,
different
uncertainty,
aromatic
or yeah.
compounds and stuff, but none of it is carcinogen. And we use, I don't know if you use also the flavor art, right?
Yeah.
And they do tests of that on living cultures like bacteria and other organisms to make sure that their flavor doesn't actually kill or like cause any damage to living organisms.
Hmm.
So I mean, maybe it's not the most uh, comprehensive test, but I mean, at least at least things can live in it, and like don't die and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I've been doing it 6 or 7 years, like strong every day, like a daily vapor instead of smoking, and I don't feel any long term. Other than like I said, sometimes I get a little phlegm, like you got to clear my throat, or
Yeah, but you got that and much worse
oh, absolutely,
when you were smoking cigarettes.
yeah. What I'm getting at is that it's still like yeah, it's like 10 times better or many times better, but I would say that it's not. If you're gonna do one or the other, yeah, you should do vaping because I think it's way safer. But
I think it's such a wrong like equivalency to do something like that. It's like,
mhm.
oh no, yeah, like imagine a smoker saying, oh yeah, well, but I'm gonna smoke that, but I'm still putting stuff in my lungs and stuff like that. And it's like, well, yeah. So do you want to are you also gonna stop eating burgers and just start eating broccoli because
Yeah,
burgers have, I don't know, saturated fats or shit like that, or
yeah.
unsaturated or whatever the
I
fuck it
think the
is.
other thing is that the great part about vaping for quitting smoking is that most people like, or for me, for example, and some of the stuff I've read is that most people like the act of smoking. Like you're more addicted to the psychological act of inhaling something and breathing it out and the way that feels and all that than even the chemicals. Like the
I think,
chemicals is
yeah.
one thing, but it's like the nicotine itself is one
It's that
part of the
hand to
addiction.
mouth addiction,
Yeah.
or yeah, I completely agree. I think for me that's a big, if not the biggest part of it. I also used to bite my nails for most of my life.
Hmm.
I don't really do it anymore, but it's, I mean, there's something about when I'm
Hand to
doing
mouth.
nothing, I
Yeah.
get kind of fidgety. So biting my nails or vaping or doing something like that.
That idle hand syndrome.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of like instances where the behavior patterns are like ingrained into you before and after things or during things. Like when I used to get in the car, like I would roll down the window and smoke a cigarette while I was driving because like it just felt
Yeah.
like that was like a good feeling. Or like if you're hungry, you smoke a cigarette and it kind of staves off the hunger. Or if you just finished eating, you want a cigarette because it's like, oh, wow, nothing goes better after a nice meal than a cigarette. Or
I
uh,
noticed for me it was a lot of it was whenever I kind of passed through a door frame. I mean, not literally, but if you go from inside to outside,
okay,
like if
like
you're, let's say you take the metro
yeah,
and you come out of the metro and there's just that
yeah,
trigger.
yeah. You're outside. Okay, I can smoke now. I
But
should have one.
yeah, but even if you had only like a 15-minute
Yeah.
trip, it's
Man, there was a guy.
it's weird.
There was a guy a couple of months ago. We were in the metro, and this guy was just smoking a cigarette inside the metro
Oh,
train, like a fucking cigarette, like on
what
the
time of the day?
like around maybe 11 in the night or 10 at night or so. Like ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Like right next to us. I was like, I smelled it. I was like, somebody. I was like, no, it can't be. Like I smelled clearly a cigarette, and
Yeah.
I was like, maybe somebody just smoked right outside the door and tossed it. Because sometimes people do that shit where they just try to get a cigarette in right before they get in, and then no, he was smoking a fucking cigarette right inside the fucking metro.
Did you say something for it?
No, I didn't. I was going to, like, I really
Yeah.
was going to, because it was so. I was just kind of in shock that the guy had the gall to do it, and at that point, I guess I was just like,
What kind of person was it?
I don't even.
Let's throw some judgment here. Come on.
I don't remember. It looked like a degenerate.
It was a
drunk.
guy.
Yeah,
You
degenerate.
think he was drunk or intoxicated in some way?
Degenerate looking drunk white dude, old
Okay.
ish.
Did he look like a student or
No, he was older.
construction worker?
Like
or
48, probably like
48.
used to be a construction worker. Now he's homeless.
Did he have tattoos?
But he wasn't like a who's for B guy. He was like a savage.
Okay. Did he have tattoos?
Huh?
Did he have tattoos?
I don't remember.
How was his hair? Was it all messed
Matted?
up and fucked up and
Maybe.
oily and
Not super bad.
no long?
Like he looked like a kind of guy that if you just gave him a shower, he would look like a normal member of society.
Yeah,
He
those
didn't
are, I
look-
mean, then what? He doesn't really have many fucks to give, right?
No, he didn't give a fuck.
It's like, what are you gonna do?
I don't think he was Danish. I think he was like
Oh,
I felt like he was a white guy, but I felt like
Mhm.
he was either Eastern European or
yeah,
Russian, or I don't know, but I don't think he was Danish.
yeah. It was the kind of guy that's like, hey, if you just kick me out of the country, at least I'll get a free plane ticket or something like that.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say it like that. I'm just saying I don't think he was Danish. I don't think even a Danish, like I never seen like really bad behavior even from, I don't know, like Danish homeless people and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
they're always pretty. I don't know. It seems like they're still somewhat respectful, or like,
It's always the fucking foreigners, huh?
I guess so, man. I don't know.
I mean, there's a reason for DF to say the things they do, right?
Oh God, don't get me started on agreeing with anything they fucking got going.
Hey, that's kind of what you're saying.
No, I mean,
I know.
the thing is, it just, man, I was tilted too. It's just fucking smoking a cigarette right there next to me.
Yeah, did you vape on his face? You should have done that because you
No.
can make bigger clouds than him, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, take this, you asshole.
No, because then you're stooping to the level. You don't fight fire with fire. That's like a typical American.
So
thing.
you're the
It's
kind
like,
of guy if someone just if someone's just drunk in the metro and they punch you for no reason, you're just like, okay, well, I'm the bigger man. You just say, I'm the bigger man. I'm not gonna.
What if I'm not the bigger man? I don't know. If somebody punches me for no reason, then yeah, I guess I'm gonna assess whether I even have a chance. Like,
Well,
if,
yeah, that's smart.
if they're
That's
if they're
smart.
really drunk, then my
Mhm.
chances are already improved.
Yeah,
Because I can do some wily shit, like,
and you have a big ass vape. That I mean,
Yeah,
that's gonna
hit him in the
that's
temple
almost
with
like
the
how much
vapes.
does that weigh? Like half a kilo?
yeah, I feel it. I think it's at least 500 grams.
Yeah,
That's
I think
a
so. Maybe
solid,
four or
solid
500
stainless
grams. Yeah.
steel. I mean, but that's always my strategy with what it's going to be is assess the situation and see if a sneaky cheap shot with the vapes will get me out of it.
Do you have anything in your backpack that can be used as a weapon as well? Because you carry your backpack quite often.
I don't talk about what's in my
Oh,
backpack,
that's
so
true. Sorry, I apologize for it.
It's a
I
private.
didn't mean. I
It's a
didn't mean
private
to.
matter.
I didn't mean to.
No, I mean, I'm not a violent person, man. I don't think anybody would just punch me out of random in the fucking metro.
No, maybe they thought it was someone else. Like, motherfucker, Jesper, and then you turn. Oh, sorry, you're not Jesper.
Actually, speaking of that, there was two situations the other day in the metro that were kind of interesting, or I guess got my heart pumping, which is pretty rare for a metro ride.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
I
Go
was just sitting in one of the ends of the train, like on the facing. I don't know. We usually sit sideways on the train in those little benches that are for
Mhm.
like,
yeah,
I don't know, people
For-
with baby carriages and shit.
yeah, yeah.
Because if there's nobody there, I like to sit there. You're close to the door. It's just easy.
Yeah, if there's a fire, you can run away
Yeah,
quicker.
exactly. It's very practical, It's quickest to the escape hatch. Anyways, there was a guy behind me, and some lady came up to him, and I don't know, like she was just asking him something or bothering him. She wasn't begging for money though, and he was like, "Leave me alone." Like he really, like he just turned. He's like, "Leave me alone." And like she just kept fucking with him. He's like, I said, you fucking leave me alone. And he like stood up like he was gonna hit her. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? You know, like I don't know anything about this situation. If he's in the wrong, if she's in the wrong. He seemed like genuinely fucking tilted though. And then when he started to get up and get off the thing, like he was like, we had just come to a stop and he was trying to get by. She was kind of blocking him and he just like pushed through her. And like, of course, even when the very first leave me alone thing, people had already stood up, like they were ready to intervene if something, I don't know, went on or whatever. And, I don't know. He just walked out and then she walked out and she was talking to other people. Like, I don't know about this guy. What's the deal? I have no idea what the hell was said or done before that, like what their relationship or lack thereof. But it was one of the weirdest interactions between two people I've ever seen, like just with no context, just kind of.
Was she talking to other people as well?
No,
or?
no, just
so she was just came directly to him.
Yeah, maybe
for some
they
reason.
were. I don't know. Maybe they had some relationship or they knew each other, and I guess they had to, right? I really don't know the whole story.
From the situation.
But what I was getting at with that is that every time there's ever been a situation here where it's kind of like everybody's on high alert or, you know, like you're like, wait, that's not normal. You know, something needs to happen. Everybody here pretty much stands up right away and is ready to like jump in and either hold the guy down or do whatever needs to be done to make sure like society functions smoothly and normally. So what I was getting at is with like, if somebody punched me at random in the metro, I feel like I maybe wouldn't even have to necessarily do something because probably if there's other people there, somebody will intervene right away.
Yeah.
That's usually the way it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, not always, but yeah.
Like, that's the Unfiltered Copenhagen host. Take your hands off him.
And then what was the other thing that got my blood pumping the other day?
In the metro as well?
Yeah, because it was right behind me and he like wound up for he kind of like wound up for like a fake punch. Like he was going to, you know, like he was just threatening or posturing like he would hit her to like get her to back up or maybe he would, I don't know. But I was right behind them because of where I was sitting. And I was like, oh shit, if something breaks out, like I'm right here in the line of fire, I'm going to get hit by a stray punch or something, you know? So I was thinking about should I duck or, you know, shield myself with the backpack? No, I wasn't thinking that. But what was the other fucking thing that happened?
Was it in the train, in the metro?
No, it was in the metro. What the fuck was it now?
It'll come to you.
Yeah, it'll come to me. Let me just, I'll think about it for a bit.
I can't really remember. It might have happened something like some metro situations to me, but I can't really remember. And I don't take the metro nowadays as much as you do.
Yeah.
Because, I rarely take public transportation. Now, I take the train to come here. And then every once in a while, I might take the bus just to go somewhere that's a bit further away if the weather is shitty. But I mostly walk. I don't go that far either. It's still
it's like
kind
it's
of
on
annoyed,
the tip
huh?
of my tongue. Yeah,
it's
it's annoying because I can't think. And it was actually, I think this one was even more interesting than the other one, but maybe I was wrong. Oh, okay, I remember. Yeah, it was maybe less drama filled, but it was interesting. I was walking up to the station at like either Norrport or Kongens Nytorv, and I went down, and you know I was just about to get on the train, so I have to wait a minute or two outside, you know, on the side part where you stand. And as I approach there, I always like to get in the very back of the train so that it's like the best spot to get out when I come here because it's right next to the stairs. So I'm always on like the farthest back of the train. And there was an old lady that was like laying down on against the glass, like right next to where you get on the train, like she had fallen or something. And there was people kind of surrounding her. Are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. And then she was like, you know, I don't remember because I wasn't close enough to hear everything that was said, but basically, I think she had either like a fainting spell or like some, I don't know, heart palpitations or what. But everybody was really concerned with her. And she was pretty old, like maybe 65, 70, 75 years old. And seemed really nice. And everybody helped her stand up. And she still looked like really like she was going to fall down. So everybody there was kind of around her, like ready to catch her if she fell and like, hey, where are you going and all that. And she was like, oh, I'm going to, she was going towards the M2 line, towards Amapro. And, but she was getting on she got on the Vestama train. And I think she was still shaken up from the fall or whatever because everybody kept talking to her like, hey, you know, you're on the wrong train, right? And she's like, no, it's fine. This one goes the right way. and everybody was like kind of like trying to be nice, but like, hey, you really are on the wrong train if you need to go to Amabro. And she just like didn't seem to care at all. And finally somebody like went and just got somebody from the metro and like I guess told him, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I think that she's either like has some mental problem or is like really out of it from this spell she fell earlier or whatever. But like that's another thing I was getting at. Like people are right away like seem to want to help here.
Yeah.
If something like happens, I mean there was people all around her helping, like making sure she's okay, putting her in a good position, telling her, hey, don't get up so soon. Just wait a minute. Then you can get up, when you feel like you're ready, helping her up and ready to catch her and make sure she gets to the right place. I really like that about the society here.
Yeah. I mean, I feel similar. The only time let's say if someone falls on their bike, it's very normal for people to just stop right away, a few people, and see if they're okay and try to help. The only time I fell on the bike, that's also what happened. People were stopping like, you're okay? And like, yeah, I just fell. I'm fine. But yeah, I from my limited experience with that, I feel that people here are pretty, how do you call it? Like helpful, not helpful, but not
Like the
considerate.
bystander effect is not quite as bad
Yeah,
here. Where
I saw a video on probably on Facebook or some newspaper or something like that recently. Like one of those, it's not a prank, but kind of like those pranks, those prank videos where there's a guy and a girl, and the guy is, I don't know if he's threatening to hit her or something like that. Like they're clearly playing as if they're a couple. They're acting and they're playing as if they were a couple.
mm-hmm.
And the guy is acting really violent towards her, but I don't think he's actually hitting because maybe they actually get in trouble for that, even though they're acting. I don't know. But there's some kind of threat in there,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, when you get home, you're gonna see, or shit like that.
Yeah.
And then he goes on a phone call, so he goes a little bit away from her, just to see if like they're filming and trying to see people's reaction on the street, if they actually come to the woman and try to help her or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm always a bit suspicious about these kind of videos because they can be edited to basically show whatever they want to show,
Yeah.
Like you can have 90% of the people helping, and if you want to show that, oh, people don't help, then you just show the other 10% or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the basic goal of the video, or the message they were trying to show, was that men were much less helpful towards the woman than other women would be. So most of the people who were like trying to save her, were other women.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you were there that night. When we were in Greece, we were in that where did we go? Exarchia a bunch of times.
Yeah. It's a nice place.
We were there one night.
Oh no, I wasn't there, but I heard the story. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, we were. It was a similar situation. So there was a guy and a girl, and they were going at it verbally. They were really like, I don't know the language, so I couldn't tell exactly what was being said, but it looked like a lover scorned kind of situation where like he was pissed because maybe she cheated on him or vice versa. I don't really know, but it was almost like it was an act. Like the way that she was being everything was like so public and out in the open, and like she wanted people to see, or he wanted.
Yeah, almost like a movie.
Yeah, like it was like they were acting for everybody, and I think that people were hesitant to get involved because first off, you don't know. Well, I was hesitant to get involved because first off, I don't know the language and I don't know any of these people, and we were in a part of town that there's like known anarchists and. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this guy's like a gang leader and 15 of his boys are going to jump in, or,
Yeah.
we're just foreigners. So we like, but I was on alert, like, okay, we should be ready to either, move or get out of here or whatever. And one of our friends was actually pretty wasted. And at one point, like they continue fighting and they're just verbally fighting, and he's kind of chasing her around, and she's kind of like flaunting and playing the victim in a way, as far as I could tell, like really kind of, I guess, like trying to really piss him off, like just as much as possible is what it seemed like to me. Like she could have, there were so many times she could have left or did anything else, but no, she kept like antagonizing him and like pushing his buttons, And in that situation, I was like, okay, well, this is none of my, this isn't our business. Like, if this something is really going to go wrong, the people here should step in and do something, you know? And at one point, he actually did kind of like shove her, and everybody like stood up and like started to move towards a little bit. And you could see he chilled out for a minute. And then, I don't know, she said something or did something and then started running towards the tree. And the guy like literally just ran at her, grabbed her by the neck, and like slammed her head in the tree. And
Yeah.
this was like the line had been drawn. It was way too much. It was definitely violent. He like smashed her head in the fucking tree. And everybody started to move like on the guy right at that point. And our friend who we work with, who was like plastered, like immediately like went, and it was like basically confronting the guy like to a 1v1 almost.
Also
Like,
a big guy.
yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
it's who I think it is.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
he's big. The other guy was pretty big too. I mean, I think he was tatted up. He looked like he was not going to be an easy scrap, no matter what your size was, especially if you're
Yeah.
drunk. And yeah, you don't know who his friends are. You don't know if that guy has a knife. Anyways, he kind of charged him up. The guy cursed at him, I guess, a little bit in Greek, and so we don't really know what was said. And we all tried to get him to back off. And then a few of that guy's friends seemed to show up, and yeah, there was a point where our buddy was walking back, and then there were some people started approaching him really fast, and I was like, hey, turn around, these guys are coming, you know, like they were going to try to like blindside him or something. It was a weird situation, man. But what I was getting at with
But
that,
wait, from my understanding, nothing really much happened after that. As in, like there was not really a big brawl or anything.
no,
like that.
the girl got back on his motorcycle with the guy that threw her in the tree,
Yeah.
and then they went back home together to make angry love or something.
Good old
Yeah,
Stockholm syndrome. Or
exactly. And my whole point with this story is that when it's like a relationship situation like that, I think that it's also, you don't know the whole story. You don't really know what's going on. And sure, maybe it seems like he's verbally abusive or she's verbally abusive, but if there's no actual physical violence, man,
Yeah.
like I think it's wrong to step in, because
oh, for sure.
you just don't know what the situation
Mhm.
is. I mean, if he's basically just constantly, or if one of the parties is like just constantly just fucking, you know, really being aggressive and like, I mean, I guess you could say, hey, chill the fuck out, man. Like, you know, or kind of intervene, but I don't know. I felt like at the end of the day, it was a lover's quarrel, and then they went home together. Like,
Yeah.
it seemed like she was enjoying playing this game with him, and that he was like, he fell for it hook, line, and sinker, or they both enjoyed that kind of toxic relationship.
Yeah.
And you know, that's often the case.
Oh,
like
a lot of people are like that.
people stay
Yeah.
in abusive relationships because for whatever reason they like some part of it, or yeah, like it feeds them, it keeps it exciting for them. I don't really know. I'm not really all for that, but some people do. But it was just it was a little bit of a dicey situation there in Athens.
Yeah, that's also it's. I thought it was funny when you were saying that she was not really, she could have stayed away or be quiet. But she was just antagonizing.
As much as he was chasing her around, he would kind of like take a few steps and chase towards her, and she would like kite back a little bit and then be like spit some more venom, and then you know he would come further and she would like back off a little more and spit some more venom, and they just literally just like walking around this kind of chasing pattern around the whole fucking square. And at any point, yeah, she could have just left and like turned away and left. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he would have chased her further or anything like that. It was like almost like an act.
But that's also
let's go Southern European thing. Like
no, I don't know,
quarrel,
but let's go a bit into stereotype mode.
Okay,
because it's fun. That's also a very like, if it's two guys, they're not gonna argue too much, you know. Eventually it's gonna escalate to the point where they're just gonna
be
hit each other or throw things at each other or something like that.
They're gonna be chest to chest and poking,
either because it's biological or because they're generally speaking not as big and strong as men. They just keep throwing venom into it, you know. And you see so often also in like if you look at street fight, I love looking at street fight videos on the internet. But usually when there's women involved, either against other women or men, you just see that it's almost like having an open wound, and they just keep poking at it. It's like, oh, let's see what happens if I keep pushing this button over here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not getting enough of a reaction here. And wait, don't hit me. Oh, okay. Oh, wait, but here's some salt, you know, just throw some shit in there.
Yeah, and then they get really surprised when they actually like try to hit a guy, and then the guy like hits her, and like, wait a minute, that's against the rules.
Yeah. No,
I know what you mean. I've watched a lot of those. I mean, I've probably watched every Best of World Star compilation and all those fight videos as well. And I don't know why. I have some sort of morbid curiosity with it, like. As in, like, it really actually frightens the shit out of me, like some of those situations where it just turns into a guy like being brain dead over like nothing.
oh no, street
Like,
fights are so fucking dangerous, you know, because
yeah,
if you fall either because you're knocked down or because you're out wrestled or something like that. I mean, if you're in the, it's not like, oh, this is grass, I can do that, you know.
yeah,
It's
if you're
like
on the concrete,
I don't care where we are. This is gonna be concrete. This is gonna be whatever. If you fall, you hit your head.
you can
Didn't you
get
see
brain damage.
there was a
or
video
die.
recently of some
Russian
MMA,
MMA guy?
yeah, Russian MMA
Yeah.
guy versus a bodybuilder or something.
Yeah, he
And
killed
he
the
just,
guy,
it just like wheel kicks him,
and then
the
punched
guy
up a few
falls,
times when he
and
was
then
still on the ground.
when he's in the ground, he just like
3,
hammer
4
fist him
punches.
2, 3, 4 punches max, and done. The guy is dead.
Yeah,
And
that's
MMA
what scares the shit out of me, man.
and MMA is so popular now. There's so many people training, you know, that first I have a feeling that there's a lot more people. Well, I mean,
Who know jiu-jitsu?
percentage wise, it's still going to be a very small amount of people, but there's a lot more people who are trained in different martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
or at least in different as in MMA, mixed martial arts. So it's not like you're doing all this karate thing where the number one thing is all about the mental aspect of it, and then afterwards come the martial art. No, this is like
People-
brawl shit, you know.
Yeah,
And then even if you're trying to defend yourself, when you're trying to defend yourself, of course you're not trying to think, oh, is this asphalt? If the guy falls, is he gonna seriously injure himself? You're just trying to
yeah.
defend yourself.
And that's considering too, like, sort of honorable opponents that are like, okay, this guy wants to fight. Yeah, let me defend myself or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, imagine at the point that you get downed on the ground, if the guy just decides to keep wailing on you. You
Oh,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
like those are the worst.
Which,
Like,
is a common thing in
it's-
MMA,
yeah,
but you have a canvas. You don't have asphalt or
Yeah, it's-
concrete or anything like that.
it's hard to watch those videos where like the people get knocked out and the other guy
When-
just keeps
yeah.
going, and just like you can just see like the brain damage happening.
Yeah, when it gets to the ground,
Yeah,
it becomes a bit scary.
I think if you had if
And
I
people
had to
getting-
choose between being in like a street fight on a street with just some random versus like going into the ring and fighting like, I don't know, 1 5-minute round, or you know,
Yeah.
however long I last
Mhm.
with like somebody
Yeah,
who's
but you have,
trained
you
in
have a
MMA.
referee in the
Yeah,
ring
I know,
as
but
well.
I would much rather fight the MMA,
Yeah,
even
of
if I just
course.
got my ass
Of
handed
course.
to me.
I mean, worst case, you get
Some
you
stoppage.
get knocked out, you know,
Yeah.
and the referee will stop it.
Yeah,
On the street, you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
no. Anyways,
I'm-
I enjoy watching those videos. I can never watch videos where girls are fighting. I usually just skip the part because with a few exceptions, there's been a few videos
It's
where
hair pulling. It's basically the number
yeah,
one
it's,
trick is
it's
hair
just,
pulling,
it's just one
then
person grabs the other
flailing
hair,
arms.
flailing the arms. There's no real damage done. It just
which is good. No real damage done.
I
but-
guess it's good. I'm just saying it's like it's not where I go to watch a nice like a good fight or like, wow, that was crisp punch there
No.
or whatever. It's literally just hair pulling. And then the worst too is those videos are so loud that I have to reduce my system volume to like 5%, and then I have to turn down the volume on the video to 5%. So it's
Yeah.
like, and it's still, you can hear the shrieking and screaming and world star and all that shit.
yeah.
And the ones where the girls are fighting are the worst, because there'll be somebody in the background be like, you know, oh, hit that bitch, yeah, you better get her, show that bitch what's up, you know. And like the whole time it's just like for 5 minutes
Yeah.
it's just they repeat the same thing, because like I guess when you get in some excitement or something like that, like you just can't think of anything insightful.
You're just
like-
supporting your own.
Like you're not a commentator, you know, like you're just literally
No, you become emotional.
yeah, I
You know,
guess.
it's like you're not this rational guy who's watching a game of pool. And like, oh, look at the way he's
Wow.
aiming that
Look at
cue,
the
you know?
shape. Look at the shape he got
that
on the
was
8-ball.
a perfect, whatever you call it, the ricocheting on the walls of the pool table. I don't know the terms for that.
Uh,
But talking about women fighting, there's going to be there's going to be a bantamweight champion at UFC.
Yeah, the
Title
women
fight.
the women MMA fights. I've watched a few.
They're becoming so much better. Every year you can see that they're becoming better and better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched several of the victories by what was her name? She basically quit after she
Ronda.
Yeah, Ronda's stuff. And
Yeah.
before that, who was the one to beat? Was it like Amanda Nunez was like
No,
pretty popular at one point too?
Amanda is the current champion, current bantamweight champion.
Who else did I watch?
There's Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the Polish girl.
There was Cyborg.
There's Cyborg. Cyborg is the featherweight champion. Amanda is the bantamweight champion, and Joanna
somebody else
is the strawweight champion.
Anyways, I never really watched too many of the female MMA things, but I did watch basically whenever Ronda. I think everybody got on board with the hype because she was just defeating people in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And that was so cool to watch.
I think that the Ronda era was all. I mean, she was very skilled, of course, and she talked a lot of trash, which is also why I guess like when you talk a lot of trash and you keep beating people in such a,
then it's entertaining.
It's. I guess it's what people want. It's not very different than Conor, you know. But the thing is, Ronda was an Olympic level judo champion,
not a striker.
Well, yeah, no, she was not a striker. But the thing is, she was miles ahead of most of because it's such a new sport for women.
Yeah,
that they're still catching up.
She kind of won by default because she was so good at judo.
She was so extremely good at judo.
Yeah,
that she just overpowered everybody else because of that skill. And as soon as, let's say, it was Holly Holm, which she was a champion boxer and kickboxer, world champion. As soon as she got someone who basically didn't feed into her grappling and judo style,
she got wrecked,
and she was much better striker than Ronda was. Then
didn't Ronda also really try to strike with her a lot too? Like she was like, okay, you don't want to fight like that.
She basically tried to prove that
she could be a striker.
She could be a striker as well,
and you can't do that with a world-class boxer.
No,
if you're not.
You can't. You get kicked in the head. And
Conor McGregor showed that.
It's kind of the same that happened with Amanda Nunes because Ronda then fought Amanda on her comeback, you know.
Yeah.
And then she basically got TKO'd in 45 seconds because Amanda hits really fucking hard and she's actually a pretty good striker. And Ronda is just not that good a striker.
I liked, I watched Ronda on the Joe Rogan podcast a few times, and I really liked like when she was on. I thought she seemed like pretty. I don't know. She seemed like a pretty likable person just from the segments I saw with Joe and stuff. But I feel like there was a lot of discussion around her trainer that kind of
coach
juiced her up or told her she was so good, and maybe she got cocky.
She was surrounded by yes men basically, because when you become that big, you know, and she was surrounded by yes men, and her coach was, at least the internet seems to think that he's not really a very good striking coach. Yeah. But then he kept telling her that she
was really good.
Yeah, and
pumped her up, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, I can strike with Holly Holm," and then got wrecked.
And with Amanda, and it just
that probably wrecked her confidence when she realized, "Wow, I'm really not that good."
Also, when she started becoming really popular, I guess her attention to the sport got kind of derailed because she started showing up doing a lot of photo shoots for magazines and film. I don't know if she actually did films, but she must have done some advertisements and TVs and stuff like that, you know. And she went on a lot of TV talk shows and stuff like that. So maybe she was becoming a bit of a Hollywood star and putting the fighting. I'm not saying she put
the fighting on the back burner.
I'm not saying she put it on the back burner, but she was clearly not putting it. I mean, she only has so much time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
she wasn't like laser focused in training like sometimes you saw like back in the day, like George St. Pierre. Like holy shit, when he was getting ready for a fight, it was like
he's coming back.
Is he?
He's fighting Bisping at UFC 217 in November or October or something like that.
Bisping number it's a mid-3 or 2?
No, it's the first one because they're different.
No, I thought they fought before.
I don't.
I thought they fought before. I'm pretty sure they fought before. I don't know.
We can look it up, but they're different weight classes. Like GSP is going up to middleweight to fight Bisping.
Did they not really fight? I could swore that they fought before.
I think it's the first time. Because GSP was always welterweight, and Bisping was a light heavyweight, and then he went down to middleweight. So I don't think they were ever in the same.
You might be right.
I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Yeah. I guess at the same time that I was watching, that I was really deep into watching MMA because all our friends and stuff was watching it at the same time. That Bisping was like having quite a few popular fights. That was around the same time. I think that GSP, didn't GSP fight and lose to Anderson Silva?
I
Or
don't
no?
think GSP lost.
To Silva?
After losing to Matt Serra, which was a long time ago, I don't think GSP ever lost. Also, GSP was welterweight and Anderson Silva was middleweight. They were in different weight classes. I really don't think that those two ever fought.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's been so fucking long since I was really following MMA
But
closely. Anyway.
GSP, after he lost to Matt Serra, which is a long time ago, he never lost again. So he went on a 13 victory streak or something like that.
Yeah. Didn't he have some injury? It took him out though with his knee or something, or his leg.
I think I mean his last fight was against Johnny Hendricks, and I haven't watched that fight yet. But from what the internet says, GSP won by decision, but it was not a very clear choice. A lot of people think
took
Hendricks,
a lot of damage.
Yeah, and a lot of people think Hendricks actually should have won the decision.
Yeah,
and then he kind of took time off. This was 2013, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. Off. That sounds right. That's about around the time that I guess I was almost done watching it. Like we would watch every single UFC event for the 4 years leading up to that. So from maybe like 2009-ish till 2013 or something like that, I watched basically every UFC. And then after that, I only watched like one every few months or something whenever somebody would have an event. And I guess a lot of my friends started getting married and having kids then, and there was less, like, we were not always going to watch the fights and stuff like that. But I would love to watch it again. I would prefer to watch it like in a group setting, like when you have like have everybody have a viewing party. It's a lot more fun, I think, because if you just watch it alone, okay, you can appreciate it, but it's just so much more exciting when everybody's like had a few drinks and they're like, fuck yeah, like, oh man, that was such a clean takedown, or like you get excited about some of these things. And
but to do that,
you need people that are interested in it.
And it's not just that; it's such a terrible time to watch it here
in Europe.
It's terrible because it will basically start around 4 or 5 in the morning and go up until 7 or 8. Because at least if you're in Australia, it will start like, I don't know, 9 in the morning, 8, 9, 10. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, you wake up early on a
time.
Sunday, but at least you can watch it at a reasonable time. We're really in a bad spot to watch it live.
Well, we need to watch the next Ryzen. If are they gonna hold another one of those? At some point within the next few months.
December, I think they're gonna have a New Year's one, which is probably a bad time, but they might have another one before the end of the year.
All right, we should schedule another one for real, and whether our other friends show up or not, we should just watch it.
Yeah, let's just invite the internet.
Well,
everybody's listening to them. I mean, there's not that many people, is there? It's not like you're going to have 5,000 people coming here.
You never know. I mean, what if the podcast ends up blowing up, Like, what if we get front page of DR and then like everybody in Denmark gives our podcast a listen, and then suddenly we got like 6 million people.
Then we rent a warehouse or something like that. We charge a very small fee, and we profit.
That's a pretty good idea. Anyway,
I don't think we can publicly show a pay-per-view like that.
You have to pay the whatever the license is for re-showing it.
We'll just have one of us. We'll just have both of us watch it and we commentate it and just have people.
Although I bet the best thing is if I bet it would be easier to get a Ryzen permission and license to redistribute than UFC, because it seems. For sure. I don't know how the new ownership is now that the Fertitta brothers, right? They sold everything, right?
Yeah, it's WME IMG that owns it.
Oh, they're probably even more aggressive.
It's probably worse even, yeah.
Yeah, because those guys were super aggressive about their copyright and all that. And I guess, to be fair, probably rightfully so. But it's also one of those things that if you give more of it away, you probably also have more interest in it. And I think the price of those pay-per-view events is a little ridiculous. Like,
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said for that. I was distracted.
that's fine. It's all good. I'm just saying the price of those pay-per-view events. Like, if they gave more away for free, I think they would have a bigger following worldwide. And like, especially if they made more accommodation for the international scene, like the weird timing shit about the
Maybe
European.
the time is really
Like, if
a
they
bad thing.
adjusted the timing so that it was more, like, for instance, if it was around like 1 or 2 in the afternoon on a weekend, that's still a great viewing time for a party or whatever in the US. Like, people watch sports and have like football and baseball watching
Hmm.
parties at like reasonable normal afternoon hours, like where they have a barbecue and some beers and watch the game. People would watch fights then, and then it would be more like 7 in the evening, 8 in the evening, like prime time for European. Whereas instead they do it only at like 7, 8 in the evening in the US, and then the just timing just sucks for
Yeah,
Europe.
I think the only problem with that is that then they would be in a way catering for the European market, even though they are not.
Yeah, but what if they just alternated, like every other event they had like a timing that was okay, this timing is a little more better for Europeans while still being good for the US, like reasonably good for US.
Americans are gonna hate that for. I mean, they already do UFC events in Europe,
Yeah.
and those are
Like sold
European
out and
times.
all
No,
that.
they're
Yeah.
European times. So there's gonna be a UFC in Poland. It's coming up in a couple of I don't know, months maybe. I don't know exactly when it is.
Yeah. Oh, we missed the modular synthesizer thing, by the way.
They do it every month.
But
They do it like once a
we had
month.
scheduled it.
Did we?
It was the same day that you missed the podcast because you were hungover.
Oh, well, that's too bad. There's always next month for
It's all good, man.
Still, just before we wrap up on the fighting thing, because of the Floyd Connor versus Connor fight,
Yeah.
I got a bit more like, okay, maybe boxing is a little bit more interesting than I gave it credit for.
So you watched some
And,
boxing matches?
no. Well, I watched someone on YouTube because HBO boxing actually has a lot of full fights on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because there's a fight coming up on the 16th of September, so next weekend, which is GGG versus Canelo, and those are basically two. I think Canelo only lost one fight, which was against Floyd, and GGG either never lost or something like that. So they're both like really good, and they're both really aggressive. So the same way that Floyd is extremely defensive and people find his fights boring.
Yeah.
These two, they are both really
aggressive.
like, nobody believes that there's any chance that this will come to a decision,
Yeah, this will either be an
And-
all-out slugfest where somebody gets
Yeah.
knocked out or
And
TKO'd, or
that is going to be such an exciting fight.
yeah, that's the thing about boxing is because like you can really appreciate when a guy is a super technical striker and very patient and plays cat and mouse games to get points, but it's not nearly as exciting as
Just
watching
having
guys
them
just
bang.
go
Yeah.
at it and have them bang it out.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the old like Tyson fights and shit like that, I mean, that stuff is exciting and people were wild about that because he's so aggressive. And then there's been a whole slew of fighters that basically made their whole career out of surviving 2 bouts and aiming for points. And again, I mean, there's some technical, like I couldn't go in there and beat a guy on points. I mean, as boring as it may be, like there's some technical skill and reasoning behind all that and trying to prevent taking damage. And if you want to have longevity in the sport, you have to avoid taking damage because there's so much of that
And even
CTE,
post-sport as
head
well.
trauma stuff like that those guys get from getting hit in the head so many times. But it's not very fun to watch a match go 12 rounds of like very patient cat and mouse games trying to get points that are even if they're close on points, it's just boring.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with boxing is it's such a long amount of time for guys to not ever really be that aggressive. Now, if they're aggressive like pretty much the whole time and there's certain bouts where they're regaining their energy and trying to kind of survive for a bit and then come back with some energy again, I think those fights can be pretty good. But for the most part, I feel like boxing, unless it's that aggressive style of boxing, is really fucking boring.
But you know what? If that's the kind of stuff you like, I would really recommend you watching kickboxing instead.
Well, I like kickboxing.
It's usually so aggressive.
Yeah.
Like really, like
Knee,
glory is
they're
one
going for knee to the skull, like whenever they
it's
can aim for it.
kickboxing is really it's what people call the just bleed sport, you know? It's like people just want to see someone bleed.
Yeah, what was that movie way back in the day? The kickboxer movie with like either Van Damme or something like that. I think it was. It was maybe called The Kickboxer or something. But there was, yeah, at some point he does. They're doing like Muay Thai style or yeah, some Thai kickboxing,
Hmm.
and the guy puts like they put like a glass, like they soak the gloves in like a honey type like sticky thing, and then put it in like shards of broken glass, and they're boxing with these like broken glass gloves. It
Oof.
was
But it's a movie.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
it's a movie. I forget what it was. I watched it when I was super young. Um and it's probably terrible. Like if I went back and watched it, it's probably all in all a terrible movie.
Yeah.
But
But at the time,
I don't know. I can't remember what that was. I think it's a Van Damme movie though. So it couldn't have been that bad because Van Damme movies are like as cheesy and bad as they are on like a technical level or like
they're entertaining.
they're entertaining. Yeah, they were always entertaining.
I'll tell you one thing, Forth. I am not sure I've ever seen a Van Damme movie.
You're missing out.
I know. It's the same with Chuck Norris. I mean, I think I've seen like the one, the most classic one where he's just in the middle of. Maybe a lot of them are like this, where he's just in the middle of the jungle, you know, and he just goes around and.
I was never that wild about Chuck Norris actually. Van Damme or like what was a good Van Damme flick?
The only one I know is Bloodsport. That's the one I know by name, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Maybe that was that the actual one, Bloodsport, the kickboxing one. I don't know if it was. There was also oh, maybe it was called Kickboxer. Yeah, this is the film Kickboxer. Yeah, you should watch this, man. It's actually pretty good. Yeah, he's matched against Tong Po.
Should I watch that before or after the?
Yeah, it's determined.
other ones?
It's determined that they'll fight in the quote ancient
don't
way.
spoil it.
No,
Come
no,
on.
in which both fighters wrap their hands in hemp rope, and which is then coated in resin and dipped in broken glass to make them deadly weapons. GG.
There you go.
Yeah, Universal Soldier was another, I think, Van Damme movie. I don't know if that one was really good or not, but it stands out in my mind, so it must have been at least either great or terrible.
I was never really into violent stuff when I was. I was never much into movies, and I was never really into violence in general. So yeah. So those movies, they were around the time when I was growing up, and I never really. I think the most violent movie I've watched was like Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Which it's
Oh,
pretty sanitized.
I watched
version.
all of those Karate Kid movies when I was young. And what was the other, like the Three Ninjas? Like do you remember there was some other movie after Karate Kid was really popular? They made some other martial arts movie. There was like three buddies or kids that grew up and they all knew some martial arts and like one was the expert in
No,
this
I
or
have
the other.
no idea.
I just don't even remember. It was one of those movies that was just made off the back of Karate Kid being popular.
Yeah.
And I don't even like the movie was probably just giant pile of shit. But when I was young, I remember that I liked it a little bit. But when you're young, you like anything, you know? Seems like.
I guess so. I
You-
was,
you
I was,
have
I was
lower
very
standards.
picky.
You-
Yeah, you definitely do.
You have lower
You
standards.
definitely do. I guess you don't have your like your taste for stuff hasn't really been
Not fully developed.
defined yet or developed, so you're probably maybe more prone to whatever comes and see. Let's see. I watched mostly the violent stuff that I watched as a kid was mostly anime.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like I was never a Dragon Ball guy, but that kind of I liked Saint Seiya.
Okay.
I think that's the English name of the.
Did you
it's
ever
the
watch that?
Zodiac?
I haven't. I'm not familiar.
Knights of Zodiac or Zodiac Knights or something like that.
I don't know too much about anime because like my girlfriend's super into it and she's been trying to slowly introduce me to more stuff that I'll
Yeah.
like. But the thing is that's really sad is the only anime I really like. I mean, of course I've seen the what are the films by what it was super like Spirited Away, whoever that guy was that made
Yeah,
all those.
Miyazaki.
Yeah, so I've watched that kind of stuff, and I like those. But as far as like anime series goes, the only ones I really like are when there's like a male protagonist. He starts out weak. He's got to like level up and get better at fighting to be the very best.
Yeah.
He progresses over time slowly, and there's got to be some chicks in there with like really big anime boobs.
Oh, okay.
Did you ever watch Akame go Kill, which I recommended to our good friend Shaban?
Mm,
That
probably not.
was
What is
really, it was really good.
that? What's the English name?
That is, yeah. I mean, I can
Say it again.
Akame go Kill or go Kill or
No,
something like
no,
that.
I've
This is
never heard
so
of that.
good, man. This is so good. Shaban finished like the entire like fucking thing in like
Oh
a
yeah,
day.
I heard
It
him
it,
telling
it
me about.
is
How many episodes is it?
less than 24, I think. You can watch it in basically a day or two if you dedicate yourself to it. And
Like 30-minute episodes?
well, they're like 45, but 7 minutes of it is the intro and the out. You get to the point where you just skip the intro every time
Mm-hmm.
and all that. But it is really good. Like I've watched a few others after that I like and that are decent, but like this is the best one I've ever watched. And the coolest thing about it is there's some real evil. Like there's some characters in there that some things it's like, oh, here's the good guy and these guys are the bad guys. And it's like
It's a bit grayer, but yeah,
well, okay, how bad are they really? But no, in here, there's some characters that you're like, holy shit, this guy's like fucking evil. Like, I don't
yeah.
like this guy at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what he's done is wrong. And they really go into like graphic detail about some of them. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and then you just got to watch it. Also, the powers that everybody has are really fucking cool. Like that's one thing is like sometimes the powers are like, oh, he's got a Herculean punch and he hits really hard, and you're like, okay, cool. So he punches the guy and it hurts him. But no, no, no. Like the powers and the different abilities and equipment that they have, I thought they were really well thought out, and they're just like the fight scenes are incredible. Like, they're so good, man. The fight scenes are awesome. So you should watch that one before or after. Uh, what else have I recommended that you
I
should watch?
recommended The Notebook. You recommended Forrest
No,
Gump.
no.
You recommended the other comedy
Look,
movie with the.
I mean, it's basically like watching MMA in anime.
Well, yeah, with the story, dude. I'm
Yeah.
I'm just looking outside at the rain, and I'm like,
Oh, is it getting
yeah,
shitty out there? Maybe
look
a
at
little
that.
bit of a
Look
longer
at that.
podcast
It's been
today?
it's been yeah, maybe we should keep it longer today just so I don't have to leave.
Well, we're only at about an hour, so we
Um,
got some time. And you can hang out. I mean, we can chill a little bit after the podcast if it's looking that shitty out.
yeah, let's see.
I mean,
But
I
but
wouldn't.
I was
Let me look over there. Hold on one second. Let me look. You talk for a minute.
yeah, I was actually thinking right now that it's been a long time since we started the podcast talking about the weather, huh? I don't know if that's some kind of evolution or
Yeah, current analysis. It's looking like shit out
it
there.
really
It's
looks bad.
raining
Dude,
sideways.
it was either last weekend. I know at least last Saturday, I was wearing sandals,
Yeah.
and I knew when I took them off on that day. I just knew like I'm not gonna need you guys for at least like 7 months now, maybe
Yeah,
more,
last
and more
weekend
9 months.
we met with the American couple that was, I
Hmm.
guess trialing to see if they were gonna like if the job was gonna work out for them. And Rain and I took them out to a different yeah, like just a personal thing. Like we gave them a little bit of a tour of the city,
Yeah,
went to eat some stuff, and it was still pretty nice, but it was like at night it was starting to get cooler already,
hmm,
and you could just like the day after, pretty much this whole week the weather has been shit. Like you could smell it in the air when it's fall,
yeah.
and I think that's why we got sick. We get sick every time.
There's a season change.
Anytime the weather changes significantly from good to bad or bad to good, it doesn't even matter. Like it can be really shitty and get nice
Yeah,
out, and I'll get sick.
it dropped like 5 degrees from last week to this week.
I don't know why it is that happens. Like, but I seriously, anytime there's any real big shift in the weather, like that, like the seasons change, I get sick
Hmm.
without a doubt, and I'll usually get pretty fucking sick too. I think I was pretty lucky this time.
I had a cousin. Well, it's a couple, but she's my cousin, and they were visiting Copenhagen. I think for the first time. They travel a lot, and they like to just travel a lot within Europe and see different cities for long weekends and stuff like that. So they came here, and they said, "Hey, let's meet up." And guess where? Guess where they asked me to meet them up. Come on, I'll give you one chance for it. For me to be saying this, it's because it's
Christania.
of course, It's like, hey, tomorrow we're gonna be in Christianity. Do you want to join? I'm like,
You
jeez,
just can't escape that
let's
place.
go. But they didn't smoke, you know. So it's
No,
no,
no.
neither did I. But I was there. I was showing them around, and I actually like to.
Did you walk them down Pusher Street?
Well, I met them on Pusher Street because they got there like a couple of minutes before me. But what I really liked about or what I really like about showing Christianity to people who just come here as tourists like that is that I'm gonna show them parts of Christianity that they will certainly not see
If they
if
went on
they
their
were
own
by themselves
or went with some
you
other
know?
tour guide.
Because for most people, I'll assume that if you come to Christianity, you're not really gonna venture into the parts where there's nobody and that they're kind of hidden and the most foresty areas and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
And so when you take them there, when you take people there, it's a completely different place, and it's a very special place because you're still in the middle of the fucking city,
But it's no cars. It's quiet.
it's no cars, it's not even people. If you go like around in the
It just feels like a different world to me. Like it's like you're in the city, but
Yeah,
you just feel like you're in a totally different place. Like almost like a magical feeling that it's just there's
Yeah,
no cars allowed
I
and
think the
everybody's
magical
quiet.
feeling might come from something else as well, but
No, I don't think so. I think even without, it just feels special there to me.
it does. It's a bit like a big park, I feel.
Yeah, but parks don't have like the best fläskesteg sandwich in Copenhagen
That is true. I
or
actually
those nachos, man.
I kind of wanted them to try. I don't think they tried fläskesteg when they were here,
Yeah.
but they really liked smørrebrød.
Okay.
They really, really liked it.
Did you show them the little nook by the grocery store? You know how there's that little nook. I don't know how to describe it, but you know how like near the grocery store on the
Mhm.
side there's that jungle or that kind of woodsy area,
Mhm.
and there's like a little gate down there with some benches, and you can go in and basically be surrounded by all the trees and forests and just like sit in there like a little cubby hole almost in the woods.
I'm not sure I know what you're talking
Oh, I'll show it
about.
to you next time. It's pretty cool. It's off that little street where the grocery store
Yeah,
is.
yeah, oh, yeah, next to the vegetarian place.
Kind of, yeah.
Between the vegetarian place and the grocery store.
It may be. My memory's a little fuzzy on the direction of it, but it's over there. It's on the opposite side. It's like across from the grocery store. There's like a little.
When you're talking about the grocery store, is it the one next to Nemo or the one a bit
No,
next to Moonfisher? Closer
it's
to
the one kind of
Moonfisher?
behind. Yeah, like on
Moonfisher.
that out of the way. The one
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like a little bit out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I took them to the Moonfisher as well because they wanted the coffee,
yeah.
and
And I had a coffee.
yeah, and they liked it. Moonfisher. One of the things that I think one of the things that I like about the Moonfisher is that it really feels like a typical cafe in Portugal. Because in Portugal, it's so normal for people like after dinner, they just go out to the cafe, you know, and they get an espresso and they meet up with friends because that's kind of a traditional thing to do, you know. After dinner, you meet up with some friends.
You
in
have
a
dinner
cafe.
at home, you mean?
Yeah,
And then go out to the
Yeah,
cafe.
you have dinner around 8. By 9:30, I don't know, you leave home, you go to the cafe, you get a coffee, you hang out with friends, then you come home 10:30, 11, whatever. Maybe you have a beer or two if that's what you like. But you basically just hang out with friends after
Yeah.
dinner. And the cafes where people usually go to, it's basically like the Moonfisher. It's just small tables. People sit and talk and they can drink if they want. Maybe there's a pool table, maybe there's a foosball table. And usually that kind of stuff doesn't really exist here. Like the cafes that you have here are a bit more recent. It's not like something that's seeped into the culture, you know? And they're more like
More
places
about food.
or
Like,
places where people bring their laptops, you know,
Yeah,
and
so
stuff like that.
it's either a place like Paladin where it's like people are all in there just doing work on their laptops,
Yeah.
or students are meeting up after class or whatever to like
The
either
closest
study or do
thing
something.
to a cafe, to those cafes that I talk about here, are bars. But
Yeah, but
bars are
that's
louder
different.
because they have louder music, and
Yeah.
it's like
It's a totally different experience there
Yeah.
because then it's about the drinking.
it's like a quiet bar, let's say.
Yeah.
It's a quiet bar where it's not so focused on alcohol.
Yeah, and people getting just trashed.
Yeah, and with the pool table usually.
Yeah.
Look, the sun came out.
Well,
It's still raining.
I don't know if I'd call that the sun. It's still kind of gray.
It's brighter.
It was pretty dark though just a minute
Yeah.
ago. Like it's like maybe the sun really is coming out now.
Yeah.
Wow. What was
So
I going to say? We had a follow up on that thing we talked about in the slaughterhouse.
Yeah, that's what I was also thinking. Maybe we should actually talk about some news
Copenhagen
or
stuff.
stuff that's happening here. What we
All
have,
right.
yeah.
What do we got?
There was some development on
Let me give you the
the
rundown.
submarine stuff.
Let me give you the rundown from. Oh well, we got a few pieces. But let's talk about the one from the
BBC.
Where's the BBC one?
When the BBC talks about stuff like this, it's because
it's official. Oh, here it is. Okay. So the headline is submarine hatch cover caused death. Well, we talked about the hatches. Remember, we were trying to surmise whether or
theories,
not she lost all her limbs at the exact same time when a hatch cover smashed closed on her or something. But no, Peter Madsen has, I guess, saying now or said in court. I'm not sure if this was, testifying in Copenhagen's court on Tuesday. So he basically said that the heavy hatch to the submarine, he was like holding it up for her to come in or whatever, and he lost his foothold and the hatch shut or slammed shut, and I guess it hit her in the head. He said, this is, of course, what Peter is saying, and we know that he's changed his story on something, so it's maybe we'll speculate about it a little bit. But basically, he said that she was bleeding intensely after being hit by the 70-kilogram hatch. There's a quote, there was a pool of blood where she had landed, end quote. He quoted here, in the shock I was in, it was the right thing to do, he said, answering why he threw her overboard. And then police believe, of course, that he deliberately sank the submarine hours after the search for her had began. Is there anything new here other than that? No. So what's he saying here, Dolph? He's saying he was holding the hatch, it hit her in the head, she started bleeding.
Which is something you suspected,
wait,
right?
No,
it's something you mentioned.
Yeah, I had mentioned it as a possibility among sharks eating each limb and all that. Okay. Sorry, I left this out. He said that he tried to bury her after this happened, and then he intended to commit suicide after.
Yeah, that's new. That's a development, right?
New. So he says he was holding the hatch for her. It hit her in the head. She was bleeding. He was like, the only thing I can do now is just cut up her whole body, chuck her overboard, and then kill myself.
Yeah. So my question is,
do you believe
why didn't he kill himself?
That's a good question. I feel like it's probably because he didn't really intend to kill himself in the first place. Because I think he's just kind of saying that at this point. Much like he said he changed his story on the other things once he was kind of caught red-handed. He doesn't really have any better option because, boy, the evidence doesn't look good, right? You just cut all her limbs off and drilled holes in her chest and
he has
put metal in her chest.
Three different stories at least.
Three different stories. So, I mean, maybe he's just trying to come up with any sort of reasonable explanation that he can at this point. To be fair, I mean, maybe she did get killed by the hatch. Like, that's...
Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. We don't know.
That's a possibility, and maybe it wasn't entirely intentional. I'm not sure, but
with him saying so many different stories,
yeah,
I mean, we can't really believe him.
No, and then the other thing too is that, look, if she got hit, if I brought somebody on board our boat that we take out, and for some reason, like, they fell overboard, and we tried to search for them, and we called in the rescue, and they died or whatever, I would feel terrible. I don't think I would kill myself. Or like feel like that. That wouldn't be the first thing I jump to. Like if somebody had an accident on our boat. And I feel like it probably shouldn't be the first thing that he jumps to either. Because, I mean, accidents do happen. And he probably could have called the Coast Guard. Like if he really wanted to get away, let's assume he really did want to murder her. And he wanted to get away with like the perfect murder. Like it probably would have been more plausible to just hold the hatch for her. Wait for her to go down, drop it on her head, kill her, and say, oops, I accidentally dropped the hatch on her head. I didn't mean for that to happen. She died in a boating accident. Call the rescue and tell them what happened. Say, oh, yeah, it was an accident. Like, he probably would have got off with it. You know what I mean? Like, if his intention was to really kill her.
Yeah,
like,
there's a bigger chance. Yeah.
Don't you think that would be more believable than whatever he's done here with changing the story and mutilating the body and all that? I mean, if you just really wanted to kill her, like, you probably could have come up with something better. and maybe gotten away with it. I mean, I'm not condoning it. I'm not, but
That's a
I
good
mean,
thing we have that disclaimer for it.
well, but I just, and also here the other thing I mentioned earlier is that if it was an accident and he really intended to kill himself right after, what was the point of burying her first? Was it out of respect? Because it's not really that respectful to chop every limb off a person and the head and drill holes in their chest and then fucking attach metal
No.
to it and drop it in the fucking ocean like shark bait. I mean, that's not like a respectful funeral at sea. That's like savage mutilation of the corpse and desecration of the corpse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and if he really was going to kill himself, well, he could have just sank the sub and done it right away. Like, it's like, oh well,
Maybe he wanted to kill himself, but not drowning. Drowning seems to be
pretty terrible way
pretty
to
terrible
go.
way to go. Yeah, pretty painful at least.
I guess he could have just opened up that hatch again and dropped it on his own head.
Yeah, I guess so.
That would be the weirdest mystery, two people dead with head wounds, a bloody hatch handle.
Did they ever find her head? I don't think they have.
I
Right?
don't think they found any of the limbs, only the torso. I think those limbs are long gone.
Yeah, Let's not speculate anymore on what happened because I'm getting ideas.
What's your idea?
I don't know. Maybe he's just hungry.
He's hungry?
Yeah.
You think he was like a cannibal?
No. I'm not saying he killed her too. It's okay for it. Let's it's not even a theory. It's just more of a
More speculation.
It's not even speculation. It's just just try to think of something really ridiculous and throw it into the fire.
Yeah, but don't you think if the hatch hit her and it really was an accident, he could have just called and been like, "Hey, an accident on board. I need help."
Sure, if it was an accident. I just I don't know. It's hard to, especially with so many different stories. It's hard for me to believe that he has no fault in any of this. That
Well, certainly, even if it really was initially an accident, he certainly has fault in not immediately calling for help. Like whether she was dead already or not, or bleeding out, or gonna die anyway or not. Like I feel like the judge is gonna make a more heavy-handed sentence,
yeah.
even
Also,
if it's eventually ruled as involuntary manslaughter. In other words, that he didn't cold-hearted calculate and premeditate her murder. Like he should have called for help right away. Like that's the biggest problem with the whole story.
I don't know what the biggest problem is, but there's definitely a lot of problems with it. And I think for me, one of the things that makes it seem really fishy is just that he already had like 3 or 4 different versions of the events.
Do you think he couldn't go through with the suicide? Like, do you think he was really genuine about wanting to commit suicide and then just? I mean, I don't know. I guess we're just speculating again. But maybe he got cold feet.
It's possible. I can't speculate on whether he was genuinely going through it or not, because first, I haven't actually seen him say anything. I've only read stuff.
Yeah.
Like one thing is you actually being able to read someone's body language and tone of voice and things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I've already heard 2 or 3 or 4 different versions of the story, even if one of them is true, how am I supposed to know which one is most believable from, or rather, what he actually intended to do, or how things? It's I don't know, and it just seems like there's apparently. We had another article.
Oh,
with,
yeah, the
with
tabloid
one of his,
article, or well,
yeah,
it's kind of a tabloid. Well, it's extra
with
law.
with his mistress.
Yeah, his mistress. Basically, I guess she was in an erotic relationship, and she described some of their trips out on the submarine and said that they would go out and I guess go under, and that he liked to do some
Play some fantasies.
Play fantasy games, or like
Yeah.
I guess what that's like, role playing or like sexual fantasy
Oh, for
stuff.
sure, it's gonna be something like that. Yeah.
But it was in Danish, but we were listening, and yeah, that he liked to play some fantasy
No,
games
yeah,
or something.
I'm sure the fantasy thing wasn't he just like wanting to read Game of Thrones to each other. There's
No.
some.
Maybe
And-
my torpedo theory holds weight.
It could be.
You know what? I'm gonna be considered like the fucking Nostradamus if that comes out to
But
be
dude,
true.
was there actually a I don't think there was a torpedo
Tube?
tube. there? Was there?
Oh, we have no idea. I don't know the
Yeah.
capabilities of that submarine. I know if I was like a Elon Musk kind of guy and I was going to build myself a submarine, I would put a torpedo tube in there, even if I couldn't have explosives. I would just launch like a
Yeah, but
metal.
don't you even think like one thing is the, let's say the government or the police sees, oh, okay, this guy built his own submarine.
Uh huh.
Like whether there's a torpedo tube there or not might make a difference whether they're okay with you having your own submarine, you know?
Not necessarily. I mean, the thing is, like, you can have a grenade launcher in the
That's
U.S.,
the American. Yeah, that's the American in you
but
coming. No, it's
but you can't have the grenades to put in it. So like they'd be like, okay, you can have the torpedo tube. It's not like you're gonna be able to have any highly explosive material. Like you're not gonna be able to buy a torpedo on the open market. Like it's illegal for you to make a torpedo. I mean, he owns a rocket company. I guess technically a torpedo and a rocket aren't too different.
yeah.
But then, I mean, it's one of those things where how far do you go? Because like you can make something that's basically a cylinder, like for instance, like a blowgun or like one of these crude homemade pistols. Like you can't really ban like a pipe and like an air compressor. So technically, you can make some sort of like basic crude gun or blowgun or something out of just household shit as it is. So what I'm getting at is he could have made a torpedo tube, but it doesn't really matter. Like the government shouldn't be concerned unless he has actual torpedoes.
I think I feel you're a bit like grasping for straws here for the.
Maybe I am. Maybe I am. Anyways, I'm just saying.
It's the whole thing. Guns don't kill people.
No,
bullets or people kill people.
No, I'm not arguing about that. I'm just saying that that's historically been the most effective form of preventing, like it's really hard once guns exist to get rid of guns. The one thing that's a lot easier to get rid of is the ammunition because you can control access to the explosives that are like the gunpowder required to make ammunition work. You know what I mean? Because everybody can reload their own ammunition at home. You can make your own ammo. You can cast the bullets. You can get the casings and all that. But the casings, you can't really press them yourself. And the gunpowder, you can't make without the right chemicals. And those are all pretty highly controlled. Like chemicals and shit like that is like one of the most highly controlled and tracked things in the world. Like those high risk chemicals are those ones that are precursors to like methamphetamine and different explosives.
Mm-hmm.
Like if people they monitor all that stuff very closely. And like for instance, if the FBI sees that people are buying some like interesting chemicals, like wow, looks like this guy's like working on a bomb. Like you can guarantee that somebody's going to be at that door, like finding out what the hell's going on there.
Yeah.
And so I think that because you can't really ban blocks of metal and anybody can cut metal, like and parts of guns are easy to fit. Like guns are actually super simple. So at that point, you really have to ban like the explosive portion of it. That's what I'm saying anyway. I've reloaded and made my own ammunition, like done my own ammunition reloading with my uncle and all that, and it's really actually quite interesting and cool when you get into it. But it's more practical to ban the gunpowder and the actual ammunition itself.
All right, so you think there should be a torpedo?
Look, if I was going to build my own submarine,
you would have. Yeah,
and they said, look, about this submarine, it's going to cost you like $1 million, and you can't have a torpedo tube. I'm not building it.
Okay, wow, that's drastic. It's like either you have having a submarine isn't cool enough for you. You need to have a torpedo.
Yeah, because I want to be able to at least like. I don't know. Like, what good is a fucking submarine? You can't do anything in it.
You
You
can go underwater. And
wow, I can show you the world.
So if you had your boat, you would only have it if you had a harpoon there as well, or what?
No, that's different. That's different. Although we do. Well, let's
not talk about it.
Let's not talk about harpoon and stuff.
No. So just back on this. Where were we? Yeah, the mistress. I mean, yeah, it's kind of what I don't know if suspected is the right word, but at least thought that could be a possibility that there were also rumors that they knew each other or that they were into some kind of love triangle thing there.
Yeah.
So I could just see it, yeah, and it being something something that went wrong. They were just getting kind of
Yeah,
naughty in there, and maybe she changed their mind, maybe she didn't, maybe they just
yeah.
went a bit too rough. I don't know.
Maybe they
Maybe
had
it
done
was
something
maybe
before.
his fantasy involved amputees. Who the fuck knows what?
Uh, I'm just having a hard time imagining. I guess anybody could be into anything, but I was thinking more like maybe they had had a more vanilla sexual encounter before, or like some heavy petting and blah blah blah, and he was into something more, I don't know, foul or whatever. And he got her on board thinking, okay, cool, it's going to go great. And then he finally breaks it to her that, hey, like, this is what I'm into. And she's like, what? You sick fuck. Like, you know what I mean? And then, like, he just went berserk.
Yeah,
Or,
it's
like,
easy to speculate,
or
isn't
be
it?
like, oh shit, she's a journalist. She's going to tell everybody that I like, amputee stuff.
Oh,
or-
I had a friend of mine who actually listened to the podcast, and he actually said something that I hadn't considered before. That
Hit me with it.
there could have been, like, with all the speculation that we did regarding torpedoes and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
We actually haven't thought there could have been a third person involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's I'm not sure he had any kind of theory behind it. He just said that it's something that we didn't consider, and I guess nobody really considered either. But there could have been a third person involved in this as well. I'm not sure there's much evidence for it.
Right, but if the third person, would they have been on board the sub and then left with Madison
or
or
they
they would have
know.
been rescued?
I don't know. It could have been like if this, let's say,
They
if
swam back to the
if
coast.
this was a premeditated murder, it could have had someone else in there as well, and then that person, ran away in there. I don't know,
Like a dirigible.
or like a bike, one of those water bikes or whatever. Who the fuck knows?
A jet
It's just
ski.
a jet ski. It's just something that I hadn't considered yet, And to be fair, it's a bit hard for me with the information that we have, like the public has, to place a third person in there.
Yeah, we don't
But
have
I mean,
all the.
when you speculate enough to talk about torpedo launchers, I mean, it doesn't really do much harm to think that there could have been a
Could have
third
been a
person
third person.
involved.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'd never really thought about it
Maybe
too much.
maybe
either.
with a clown mask.
A clown mask.
Yeah, because they're scary.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. On this note, there was like a memorial or tribute video. We kind of watched a little bit of it, and boy, she seemed like I don't know. It was like a bright young life that was snuffed out. It seemed like she was.
To be fair, it's not like a memorial video is going to show who.
Well, I know, but I mean, it just really puts it into perspective that, hey, like this person had an entire life that was just snuffed out. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is so there's like so many articles about bad things that happen in the world, and you just kind of see it as like, oh shit, looks like another guy dead, or like
Mhm.
at some point it becomes, I guess not easy, but it just becomes almost so normal that you don't really think past like the headline of the article or past like the basic substance of the article to like really explore like the person's life that was taken or anything like that. I don't know. It hit me in the feels a little bit.
Oh, if you had watched that video before the last episode, would you have gone a bit softer on your speculations?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I feel like
It's like she became a real person.
well, no, it's not like she wasn't a real person before. I felt like that the whole time, but at the same time, it is, I guess, I don't know. A memorial,
It is a tragedy.
It's a tragedy, and the memorial video kind of puts in perspective like all the achievements and things that she's done and accomplished that makes you a little bit even more sad about the fact that she's no longer here. But I mean, I don't think I would have maybe laid off the Danish dark humor because the story was just so ridiculous and like a fiction movie that it's just almost laughable, like how strange the scenario was that they were first off in a home built submarine, and that he came up with all these stories, and then this story now,
And the corpse without limbs.
and the
It's,
fact that he like completely mutilated the body. We saw a picture of the hatch. It's tiny. You really the thing we talked about the fact that he cut the arms and legs off to get her out.
Yeah,
is probably 100% true because
hmm
I don't think you could get a dead person out of that hatch
it's just gonna be difficult.
without
Yeah,
cutting them up.
it's gonna be difficult.
So I don't
Well,
know.
that's it. Let's see how it pans out.
Yeah, and we'll find out if the torpedo fetish is correct or not.
But what I think what annoys me the most about this story is that I have a feeling we will never actually
No,
know the full truth.
no, probably not.
Because even if at some point he confesses to something,
It'll be
I don't know.
behind closed doors or
Oh no,
something.
but even if it isn't, I don't know if I can believe his confession anymore. You know, like
No.
he's already said 3 or 4 different stories.
Yeah.
Who says that if he confesses something, he's not saying a story that makes him completely guilty, but he's still keeping things from like the truth from the
Mhm.
public. You know, I really don't think we'll ever know the truth behind this, and maybe that's what's gonna make it a story for the what do you say, like a story for the future, you know, one of those stories
Who
that
done it?
yeah, there's gonna be
Unsolved Mysteries.
exactly.
Yeah, did you
And
ever
so
watch that show?
I
with that
watched a
guy?
few of them. I think I watched the
Tonight
Kurt Cobain one.
on Unsolved Mysteries.
I watched the Kurt Cobain one, and I watched maybe a couple of other ones. But it's a pretty cool show. Yeah,
Yeah,
it really brings out the inner conspiracy theorists in you.
the other thing about the Unsolved Mysteries is that the commentator, like the guy that hosted the show, his voice was so good for that kind of commentary. Like it was amazing. If you watch,
I can't remember
oh,
how it
oh,
was. It's been a long time.
all right, add that to the list. Watch some old Unsolved Mysteries. They're not that long.
No, they were
And
like 25 minutes.
They get
I
right to the
remember.
point. Like the shit
Yeah.
is entertaining like the whole time. I feel like that was almost like the first like really successful, not quite like reality TV, but like that was one of those things that was just really popular back in the day. Cause I mean, Americans and their justice, man, like they want to solve that mystery. Because that was part of like the whole thing about the show is they wanted you to help solve the mystery. Like if you knew anything, police were like asking you to come forward as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like they were doing it for entertainment and got a bunch of advertisement bucks, but it was also like there was stories on there that were solved because people were like, "Oh, I know that guy," or like they would
It's like,
document as much evidence as they had, and then people would like call in with tips.
it's like America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. America's Most Wanted, but instead it was like Unsolved Mysteries, where it's like they really don't know 100% what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and they suspected foul play or whatever. So it was
Yeah, I think the Kurt Cobain one was, and on the Kurt Cobain one, basically the whole thing behind the Unsolved Mysteries episode was, did Courtney Love kill him?
yeah.
And
What do you think?
I think it was a suicide, but I mean,
Do you think she was spitting venom? Do you think she was part of the reason he killed himself?
oh well, yeah, those reasons I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
But I know he had a big problem
Heroin.
with pain. Well, he had a big problem with, was it stomach or back pain? I can't remember. Like some really chronic, some really
Fucked
really
up
bad
pain,
shit.
yeah.
And he was basically taking heroin, from my understanding,
Not recreationally.
not because he was a heroin addict in that sense, but it was really just because he had so much pain
Yeah.
that it was the only thing that could actually stop it.
Hmm.
And this I mean, it's been a long time since I thought about the whole Kurt Cobain suicide and all those things, but no, I don't feel that Courtney Love did it. Did she do it? Maybe. I'm not saying that I know that she didn't. I'm just saying that
I never thought that she did that
it's-
either. I felt like if anything, that was his own choice. Either like maybe based on like their relationship maybe was not great, but like I don't think it was one of those things where she like actively encouraged him to kill himself.
No, I
like
don't
you know,
think-
because there's been some articles that recently there was that girl that like there was a young high school couple or whatever, and he was like actually really dealing with depression and like thinking about killing himself, and she was like, yeah, you should do it, like you should go buy like a generator or like a hose and like put it in your truck and like kill yourself. Anyways, he did. He like started his truck and like piped the gas back into the cabin or whatever, and at one point he
So
got
carbon
like,
monoxide asphyxiation. Or?
yeah, and at one point he was like on the phone with her or texting her, and he got cold feet, and he was like, I don't know if I can't go through with this, and he got out of the truck, and she was like, you better get back in the fucking truck and finish the job.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
No, I'm not sure I heard about
And
that.
then she like
Oh,
after she like posted on like social media like a memorial for him and like, oh, R.I.P. like this guy or whatever, like
but did
really
she?
trying to soak up the
But she got
attention.
charged for.
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like she was. I don't know the end result of that.
That's interesting. Did she get, because what are they gonna charge her for? You
I'm
know,
not sure what
like
her name
she didn't really
was.
do anything.
But
Well,
I
she
mean,
encouraged it, but
she didn't actively try to stop it. She didn't try to help. She
oh yeah,
literally
but it's
actively
nobody. It's
encouraged
like
it.
if I see somebody jumping from a bridge and I don't actively try to stop them, it doesn't make me um accessory to whatever you call it, not murder, but
Michelle Carter. The text that pushed him. Oh God, is this some subscriber shit? I gotta fucking.
you can't
Jesus.
block ads for it. Come
Oh
on,
my
they need to
God.
make money. How do you expect those online
Oh yeah,
newspapers to
she's
make
guilty of
money?
manslaughter. If you read the texts, yeah. Okay, so Roy backed out of his plan and left his truck in which he was running a gasoline-operated water pump in order to choke on the truck's fumes and texted Carter saying he was scared. She texted him back and said, "Get back in." Um anyways, if you read like the full like text and stuff, it's chilling. And like she was like just cold-hearted, it seemed like when I read the details about this thing. But yeah, I guess she found the
Hmm.
judge found her guilty, calling her actions wanton and reckless conduct, and noted that she had caused his death by quote by instructing Mr. Roy to get back in the truck, something that she knew would result in a high degree of likelihood that substantial harm would result. The verdict is unusual since Carter was not physically present when Roy killed himself and
Yeah,
represents a shift in
it's
recognition of the impact of modern cell phone technology.
yeah. I
Faces up
mean,
to 20 years.
I I don't know. Maybe I need to read it, but I find it a bit seriously. There's just so many. It's such a common thing for people to just like text, especially on the internet. You know, just like, oh, kill yourself, whatever. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not like if someone actually kills
Yeah.
themselves that those people are gonna get charged. You
Yeah,
know.
even though attention has focused on the hundreds of callous messages sent by Carter in which she kept asking him when he was going to kill himself and then scolded him when he didn't. Like she was like persistent, like you know what I
Sure,
mean?
but it's. I mean,
I know it's
it's maybe
ultimately his decision,
it's
right?
bullying. Sure, I'll
Yeah.
give you that. It's bullying, but from there to manslaughter, I don't know. I guess I need to have a bit more details on the. Is it? I mean, she's a terrible person for doing that, you know, and but it seems a lot more like bullying to me than
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, read about the article
like if someone
or
kills themselves and it's known that they've been bullied by one person, for example, is
uh-huh.
anything gonna happen to that person?
Probably not.
Probably not, right?
No. But I mean it. Like, I don't know, man. Yeah, you're right. It is a slippery slope, right? Because at what point do you say, like, when somebody commits suicide, oh, the last thing you told them is you're ugly? Like, are you responsible for their death? No, probably not. But when you're like sending hundreds of messages, like asking them and all that, and then when they're actively involved in the act of it and back out of it,
And you say get
to
back
be
in,
like get back in, like
sure,
I don't know, man.
but
Well, anyways, she's only facing manslaughter, which is only up to 20 years. That's
oh,
not
that's
that's
so
not
good.
actually murder.
She has a
So,
great future ahead of her.
hey, 20 years, man. She's only like in her 20s as well, or 18 years old or 20. Yeah, she's
She's
20.
20 now.
Yeah, so she'll be 40 when she gets out, or even earlier with good behavior. She'll be like 33, 34. Bright future ahead. You should read more about the
Also, you
thing,
won't
man.
have to worry about paying rent, I guess.
I think you'll be less inclined to.
Hey, I'm not trying to defend anyone. I'm just really trying to, in a very neutral way,
Yeah.
trying to look at it in a completely neutral and completely emotionally detached from it. And I do feel that I do feel that it's a bit of a slippery slope. And when if you're going to charge someone of manslaughter, someone who was
Not there.
just bullying someone over text message.
Mm-hmm.
I do think bullying is a terrible thing. I think there should be some repercussions to bullying in general. I don't know what those repercussions should be. I don't know what the consequences should be.
Hmm.
But I do think that
Are you a bully?
what?
Are you a bully?
Me, I don't think I ever was. If anything, I was on the other end of the spectrum. But I don't even remember being bullied. I was just a scared kid in general, you
Do you
know.
like those bully justice videos where like the bully's talking shit or like really picking on somebody and then some other guy steps in or like the victim
Oh
like
yeah, fuck
steps
yeah,
up and
fuck yeah,
there's that one bully kid, like the fat kid that's getting bullied by that
yeah,
little skinny kid,
yeah, and it
and
just
he like pile drives him, and I think he leaves that kid like it's fucked up too
yeah.
because that kid's probably like severely damaged from that. But boy, that was so
Dude, but
satisfying to watch.
it's almost like, okay, you're bullying someone who not only is taller than you, is fatter than you, so he's
Yeah,
bigger
what
than
did you
you know.
expect would happen?
Yeah, this is like he maybe has 20 kilos on you.
Yeah,
Or maybe not
there's
20,
another
but
one of man, I'm like thinking of all these world star type videos.
yeah,
and
exactly. But we're back on it again,
but
right?
yeah, I know.
Like my favorites is when the guy who's getting bullied and actually knows some kind of martial arts, you know, and he just like within 5-10 seconds
wrecks the dude
completely.
There's another one where like a blind kid is getting bullied in school by some other guy, and then some other like big ass fucking dude just steps in and like clotheslines the dude, knocks him out. He's like, you're fucking blind, you jackass, or whatever. Just like steps in and fucking, you know, protects his boy a little bit. It's satisfying to watch. Who the fuck fucking picks on a fight with a blind kid? Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of picking fights, Dolph, should we? I don't know if we should talk about this one or not. We got a few more articles. There's a few that are more jovial.
We can go on at least on the headlines. This has a great headline. I don't think this is a great article, but the headline is brilliant.
I felt like we've been keeping it on a negative note with the past episode.
Let's talk about hurricanes now, since to bring it a bit more positive. Huh?
Oh God, hurricanes. Okay, well, in the wake of what was this most recent one here? I got so many now that I'm
the hurricanes.
No, this was Irma, or this new one is Hurricane Irma, but the one that just hit Houston, Harvey, right?
Yeah.
So Houston and the whole area basically got devastated by Harvey. That was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, and you show me a picture of your old house or something like that, or what?
No. A friend of mine, his mom like cleans houses and stuff, and she took a picture of like one of the houses of somebody that area of town that she used to clean houses in, and it's completely submerged. Like the whole house, like the only thing you can see is basically like maybe 1 meter below the top of the roof line.
Yeah.
Like you can see the top of the door, maybe. Like the door is basically underwater.
The top of a lamppost as well.
Yeah, in the
like
street. In the street, like the lamppost.
The lamp.
Yeah.
The lamp part of the lamppost.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 meters of water in some places that was just completely submerged.
So if you hadn't moved to Denmark, you would probably still be living in the same house, and by now it would be completely or nearly submerged, completely submerged.
Well, now it's going to be dried out, or mostly dried now, but it would have been submerged at least in 2 meters of water. I'm pretty sure 2 meters easily. Wow. And then it's ruined. I mean, pretty much you have to tear everything out. All your furniture, all your appliances, all the drywall.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to rebuild from scratch. I mean, the studs is about the only thing that can stay. The roof can stay, I guess. Got to rebuild all that shit. And then the biggest thing is the mold. Like you have to get all that shit out right away because the mold starts growing like immediately. And the mold will fucking like that's one of the biggest problems with it is that mold will pose like a long-term detrimental health effect. Like it can kill you.
Yeah.
Or cause like serious like neurological problems, respiratory problems, reproductive problem like cancers and all kind of crazy shit.
Aren't you happy that you moved to Denmark even with all this weather here? I mean,
yeah. So Hurricane Irma is barreling down on Florida, and there's a Danish family in Orlando. They have the fridge filled with beer and meat. And they're waiting for
Danish
Irma.
family in Orlando has filled the fridge with beer and meat and is now waiting for Irma. It's like, I'm ready, bitch. Come on.
Yeah.
I have beer and food.
So they were on a holiday. They were going to go down to Miami and then Key West and do all this stuff in Tampa and all that. And instead, there's a Category 5 hurricane about to make its turn. I think it just completely wrecked Antigua, Barbados. Those areas have been surveyed and considered almost completely uninhabitable. The British and Dutch islands, like the Virgin Islands they have out there.
And it's not like the people there, it's rich people in the first place, right?
Declared a complete disaster zone. Well, I mean, Virgin Islands, I think there's a pretty high amount of wealthy individuals that retire there, you know, or
Is
like
there?
that's their vacation. Yeah,
Okay.
man. That's because, dude, the Caribbean, that's like the place to be. Like, get a yacht and go sail around the Caribbean for the rest of your life. Like, nothing but
But
great
there's a lot of
weather.
poor people there as well, right?
Yeah, in certain places for sure. But I mean, if you have any amount of money at all, like history tells us one, like if there's poor people somewhere, that means that a rich man can basically live there for free, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways, that's like a touristy area. That's an area where a lot of people with a lot of money take their big yachts and like go on vacations and stuff. Because in the season, the weather there is phenomenal. All in the Caribbean, man.
Well, not so phenomenal weather.
Well, there's also hurricane season, and it's just
Yes.
like I mean, hurricane season is a thing. And when if you're a cruiser, you don't stay in the Caribbean
Yeah.
for the hurricane season. You travel. You move around to where there's not an active like weather system. Like maybe you go. I don't know because I haven't looked at all the cruising books about the route. But either you go, you want to stay out of the Atlantic, like the mid Atlantic, when hurricane season is on. So either you go towards like Portugal and the Azores way before, like
Hmm.
you make your way to the Azores Islands area and then maybe down into the Mediterranean if you want to go that route when hurricane season's like going to start soon. Or you can go through like the Panama Canal and then go over towards like the East Asia or Southeast Asia area, like
Hmm.
yeah, Malaysia and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I
Thailand.
guess I've been most of us here in Europe, I guess, are probably a bit spoiled that we don't really. I mean, I never had to worry or even think about hurricanes. The only thing we had in Portugal was earthquakes, and well, I mean, we had one that pretty much destroyed Lisbon back in the 1700s, but uh, but I've been through one or two smaller ones,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much the only thing. I mean, they can be quite devastating, but
Well,
luckily, I never
Mexico
really
just
had to worry much about.
Mexico just had an 8.3 on the Richter scale, just
Oh,
like
that's pretty fucking
enormously
strong. Yeah,
powerful. Yeah, because it's like an exponential or like a
yeah, yeah.
logarithm.
It is. It
Like
is.
like
It
like a
is.
5 and a 6 are like you think, oh, okay, that's not that much worse. It's
No, no,
like
no. It's
way
way
worse.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So an 8.3. They said the only benefit or the only like silver lining was that the earthquake was so deep, like it was like 70 kilometers below the surface.
Hmm.
So it didn't do like it wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been. But I mean, there's like I've seen some pictures. It's just like rubble, bunch of deaths already.
Yeah.
So man, all of this Mother Nature seems to be
Yeah. So much for the happier articles that we're gonna get into
well.
now.
Yeah. Anyways, I just thought it was funny that
It's great. It's a great headline. It's a great
Danish
headline.
family on
They
vacation.
feel ready. You know, they have beer and
They
meat.
got beer and meat. They're ready to go.
Yeah. Bring it on.
I mean, I can tell you that you could be worse off. They seem to have filled the bathtub with water. That's what you want to do before the hurricane. You fill like they make these linings, like you just line the tub with like plastic and you fill it with as much water as you can so
Hmm.
that you can have drinking water and you cover it because all the water will be fucked after the hurricane usually and the power, all the utilities. And you can actually flush. Yeah, you can flush like if water still works after but is no longer drinkable because it's mixed like all the sewer system and all that stuff is messed up, then you can basically flush manually the toilet and not waste
Water.
other water by
Yeah.
using like the non-potable water. Man, losing power and water and all that shit. Hurricanes suck, man.
Yeah. I never had to live through stuff like that. But again, I feel a bit spoiled because every time I see stuff like this, I'm like,
Sucks to be you.
this doesn't seem like something I'd like
It-
to experience.
Yeah, it does, man. All right, well, I don't
But
know.
we had another one, right?
Yeah, we got one more. We're running close on time, but I think we can go over it.
No, didn't we have another
Hurricane thing or what?
No, another.
Oh, the Danish police thing.
Oh, okay, that's not very upbeat either.
No,
It's just
all
beat. It's not upbeat at all. No.
It's beat down.
Beat down.
not
Yeah.
upbeat. Danish police accused of brutality against Polish football fans Polish media is fuming after the tense ticket situation spirals out of control. So apparently, there were some Polish fans that wanted to watch their team play in Copenhagen for the World Cup qualifier, and the Polish fans were denied entry to the stadium because their tickets were seats for the Denmark only area. And then the police, I guess, I don't know, there was probably some words exchange or what, I don't know. But what they're saying is the police overreacted.
Yeah.
And we looked at some of the video, and I mean,
Oh, they were going at it.
I can see some videos of them using an asp, which is like a like that extendable metal baton that's like it's made for just beating the shit out. It's made for like maiming somebody, and they're just wailing on them. And there's some photos of guys just like covered in blood on their head. I gotta feel like the Danish police were maybe a little out of hand.
They probably were from the little that I saw. On the other hand, I am used to seeing how the Portuguese police acts in situations like this.
Are they aggressive?
Oh, the Portuguese police, they are a bit, because I think a lot of the people who end up in the police is people who either doesn't have much education, or they don't really know how to do anything else, or they just want to feel super. It's like
bully.
the whole thing. Yeah,
it's like they were the bully in high school, and now they put them in a position of power, and then just
when
get
you have
off
this
on that
power, and then you just kind of want to have a situation to use it. It's like, oh man, I hope somebody misbehaves so I can just beat the shit out of them because my wife hasn't had sex with me in 3 months, and just whatever the fuck it is. I don't know, but I can see in the Portuguese police, especially in the ones for football games, that they tend to. There's been a few cases in the past couple of years. There's been a few notorious cases.
They went overboard.
Yeah, and it was very clear to see that, for example, someone beating up an older dude, like a 50 or 60-year-old man who wasn't doing anything, just because he was
in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Basically, yes. Things like that. And so in that sense, this reminded me a lot more of the Portuguese police, how they behave. But still, it wasn't as bad as they usually do.
Yeah.
The Portuguese police.
Oh man, Sunday the police were out. We were in Oosterparken with that American couple, and as we were leaving, there was a cop chasing two like kind of maybe 16, 17-year-old teenagers around, and he was chasing them. Like he was actively trying to run and chase them down, and they kept like running, kiting him around. They were splitting up, like he could never get them. And as we were leaving, there was like a police, one of those unmarked police vans, and a car showed up, and they got a dog out. I don't know what eventually happened, but that dog was ready to go. Like he came out of there barking. He was aggressive.
When you bring dogs like that, I mean, it can get fishy because I don't know how much control the police has over the dogs. No. Like I know they're holding them, but it's not like if something happens, if those dogs get loose, it's not like you can just say, "Hey, stop." Yeah. I mean, they're gonna bite your arm off or something. Maybe that's what happened in the submarine. Maybe there was a dog there.
Oh,
All right, that's our cue.
So, any thoughts on what we're going to title this one?
Oof, I don't know. There's just a lot of random talk.
It's like the fight episode. I felt like
there's a lot of violence in this one, wasn't there?
Yeah,
there was a lot of violence. There was bullies. There was the whole submarine thing. There was
like
UFC
a coerced
and street
suicide
fights and
street
I don't know.
fights.
It's going to be something hinting at violence at least.
All right. Well,
which is strange because
you're not going to be here next Saturday either.
No, we're most certainly have to skip next episode unless we record it on Wednesday. Oh, even Wednesday it's going to be.
I can't
tricky.
do it Wednesday because I got Danish. What about Tuesday?
Maybe we can record one in 2 days, in 3 days.
All right.
We'll see.
All right. See you next time.
Yeah. See you.